John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Roman Reigns, and The Undertaker comes to mind. But one name has gone through generation after generation. That is everybody's brother, Hulk Hogan. I remember growing up, I had a couple hand-me-down toys from my aunts and uncles at my grandma's house. And one of them my uncle had left me was a Galoob Hulk Hogan. I didn't watch wrestling growing up. I didn't know about Hulk Hogan until I was almost in my teens. And to see that he has a part of my childhood still, it's incredible to think like how many people know Hogan and love Hogan or know about his career, or if you're like me, just had one little action figure growing up. From the 80s up to the mid-90s, Hulk Hogan would be the big face of the WWF. Hogan would get fans behind him and have kids drinking their milk, eating their veggies, and taking their vitamins.
What's going on, guys? It's your favorite pod star himself. It's your boy Breezy, aka Street Breezes, riding hard for the boys from AEZ. Coming here to talk to you just a little bit today about my favorite wrestler growing up, the immortal one himself, Hulk Hogan. Now, if you were born in the 80s or the 90s and you're going to tell me that you were not a Hulkamaniac growing up, well then, brother, Breezy just can't trust you. I mean, when we're going all the way back to his immaculate first title run from when he beat the Iron Sheik, you know, running all the way hard to the Rockin' Wrestling Connection with Mr. T to form the very first ever WrestleMania. He was a pivotal part of that. Moving all the way down to the biggest at the time, which was WrestleMania 3, against the eighth wonder of the world himself, Andre the Giant. I mean, the Silverdome, not the Superdome, was electric, and that record stood for damn near 30 plus years. I mean, even when he was out of the title picture, ooh, yeah, when he went with the Macho Man Randy Savage and they touched and the Mega Powers, yeah! The Mega Powers, one of my favorite tag teams of all time. They had that run from WrestleMania 4 all the way to WrestleMania 5. What happened to WrestleMania 5 was those Mega Powers exploded. But Hogan got his belt back. All our dreams were back on track for all you little Hulksters saying your prayers, training, and eating your vitamins. Then, the toughest test to date, we moved on to the Sky Dome. It was the ultimate challenge. The immortal one himself versus the Ultimate Warrior, title for title. And what happened? A lot of Hulkamaniacs' dreams were crushed that night because Ultimate Warrior beat our hero 1, 2, 3 in the ring. But was that the end of Hogan? No, sir, because our boy got that belt back from that dastardly Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania 7. Took that thing on all the way to the WrestleMania 8. He wasn't the champion, unfortunately. He should have been. It should have been Hogan and Flair. It wasn't. Time goes on. We go to WrestleMania 9. He ends up snaking the belt from Yokozuna. And a finish to this day I still don't understand. But what I'm trying to say here is your boy Breezy will always be a true-blooded Hulkamaniac. And what you gonna do, brother?
After having one of the most dominant runs in professional wrestling history, Hulk Hogan would jump ship to WCW. There, he would do the most controversial heel turn of all professional wrestling. Hogan would turn heel and join the NWO.
So the heel turn of Hulk Hogan is very expected because the biggest babyface in all of wrestling you'll probably ever see is Hulk Hogan. Was a face his entire career. And then at first in WCW he didn't want to do it because he has always been a face, and that's just a character that he had always done. But they presented the idea of him doing a Hollywood Hulk Hogan and him joining forces with the Hall and Nash, which at first, not many people know this, but it was actually supposed to be Sting who's going to be joining Hall and Nash, but they needed it to be a WWE guy because Hall and Nash were the outsiders, which coming from WWE, that's what they're referencing to, and that's the only big name that they could really make it work. And then they formed the NWO. The NWO lasted pretty good at first, but then, Hogan joined the first big one. Then they had Randy Savage join, then Lex Luger joined, and then Miss Elizabeth joined, and then basically the entire roster was NWO, except a few others. And then there was LWO, then the Wolfpack NWO. They had so many NWO stuff that it just made the entire product kind of watered down. Not watered down, I would say, but very old. After a while, it got old seeing NWO, because you already know what to expect. Like, they would always win. Every big match they were in, like, they would always win. So I think the NWO probably should have just consisted of Hall, Nash, Hogan, and maybe X-Pac, and that was it. They shouldn't have added the entire roster. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Though the NWO would show to have power on screen, behind the scenes, Hulk Hogan would have in his contract creative freedom. But that also entails all control of his booking. The question remains, how many wrestlers that were up and coming did Hulk Hogan sabotage because he didn't want to put them over?
Well, you want to talk about Hulk Hogan having too much power in WCW. Well, I'll tell you this. It's well known that I've never been a fan of Hulk Hogan, and for good reason. His WCW run, he had pretty much creative control with his contract, meaning that he could pretty much do whatever the hell he wanted to, making sure that he kept himself in the title picture. Now, at this time, Hulk was, I guess in the WCW, he was the quote unquote golden boy of WCW. In some eyes, in some people's eyes. But to me, he's always been kind of a greedy, money grubbing SOB. But hey, that's my opinion. I think that was probably one of the worst things about WCW at the time was all the power that Hulk Hogan had. Because pretty much, like I said, he always made sure that he was always around the title. He made sure that it was always about him. It's like no matter what happened. And the thing is, you can go look back on this and you'll see that it was all about Hulk Hogan. It was in his contract, brother, so to speak. But that was probably the worst times in WCW history right there was, the reign of terror that Hulk Hogan had at the time. Did he have too much power? Absolutely. I felt like he kind of pushed other people down the card while he pushed himself up in a way. But like I said, that's my opinion, and that's all I can say about that.
Hogan. Well, technically, I do not know. Well, I know some about Hulk Hogan. When I first seeing Hulk Hogan was around 2002 when him and the NWO came back. But in 2002, but way before he made his WWE return, he was in WCW at the time, and his control and all that. Well, but I can say is, I just hope that Hulk Hogan gives some advice and inspiration, and maybe some motivations in there to the younger talent, though, who are growing up to fix being, as WCW would say, the big boys. And in conclusion, what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan back in WCW and returning to the WWE in 2002 run wild on you?
Hogan's actions coming to light, he would soon be asked to testify against Vincent Kennedy McMahon during the steroid trial. One of Vince's trusted golden geese would soon turn on his master and would testify against him in court.
Hello, this is Justin from AEZ Canada. And I'm here right now to talk about the steroid trial. Well, this guy right here was off filming such films as Mr. Nanny and great TV shows such as Thunder in Paradise. Vince McMahon and the WWF were embarking in probably at that point the greatest steroid trial controversy, maybe in professional sports at the time. Would Vince McMahon go to jail? What would it mean for Hulk Hogan, who I think was nowhere to be seen? What would it do to change the business forever? Wrestling, especially in the 80s, was about physique, and steroids obviously being a huge part of that. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon was found not guilty. There started to be a less emphasis on the big guys, and we go towards more sports-oriented. And it kind of changed wrestling forever. Good or bad.
Though Hogan would be known as everybody's favorite brother, the biggest babyface in WWF history, the question remains, did Hulk Hogan have too much power? How many wrestlers did he set back just to get the money, the fame? Was he really like his NWO counterpart? Or was it just he was just that damn good?
All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming out to Talking Elite. This is Dark Side of the All Elite Zone, episode 4 of our 5-part series. And tonight, gentlemen, we have a very, very wild episode. Hogan Mania is running through the All Elite Zone podcast because tonight's episode is on the immortal one, Hulk Hogan. So tonight I am joined by 2 of the biggest hearts in podcasting. We have everybody's favorite OG. He is the Mr. Colorado. He is 5-star Mr. Jacobs.
Hello, all. Hello, thank you for joining us. I am excited to be talking about this. Anytime I get to talk trash about Hulk Hogan, I am 100% down. So thank you for having me here.
Well, you are in luck tonight because at first, when I was trying to look up ideas to write the episode, right, I was thinking, okay, we'll just tell about his career, talk about the bad stuff. But then, thanks to a very controversial podcast out there, the Jim Cornette Experience, I found a whole list of lies that Hulk Hogan has said throughout the years. So it's going to be a very interesting podcast. That's why I'm so glad Mr. Jacobs is on here, because we need somebody that's like, yeah, let's go. Let's bury the Hulkster. Let's bury him like he did to Bret Hart.
Nothing wrong with that.
So thank you so much for coming on tonight, Mr. Jacobs. Love having you. Next, we have the producer. He is the ringleader of the circus. He is everybody's favorite CM Punk fan. We have Connor. Thank you so much for coming on, Connor. Are you with us, Connor?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Yes, good to be on. This should be a very interesting episode of Talking Elite, or probably in general of this entire podcast. We've done a few WCW reactions, and if you've seen those, you can kind of get where this is going to go. This is more in detail.
Yes.
This is way more in detail than any WCW live reaction. So it's great to be on.
Well, good. I'm glad to have both you guys. Like I said, tonight's episode is on the Hulkster. So the first big lie that he told, that I part of it was true, but the other half was just to piss off Macho Man. Did you guys know that he was an All-American baseball player?
Well, I know he played baseball, but All American. I don't know, but I know he was a hell of a baseball player.
Yeah.
I do know that.
And
Was he
just to
actually
rub,
an All-American?
yeah,
Was
he
that
was
a
all,
lie?
he wasn't he was an All-American baseball player, but the lie that he told Macho Man just to piss him off because Macho Man was this close to getting into the major leagues before he started wrestling
Yeah.
was he got scouted by a couple Major League Baseball teams.
That's
That's a lie.
that's 100% false.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. Like, especially because I think Macho Man was a better baseball player. And I'm like, that was
Yeah.
just for Hulk Hogan just to rub salt in the wound. I know it wasn't completely as messed up as some of the other stuff that's going to happen in this episode, but I just thought that was like the funniest, like first big lie that he told, at least during the WWF time frame.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that you're right. I personally, I feel the same way. Like he did that just to get to Macho, just to piss him off. And I mean, you look at history. I mean, history shows that. I mean, Macho Man he never really liked Hulk Hogan. He never liked him at all. He did business with him. He didn't like him at all.
Well, it also didn't help too. There was also rumors about his cheating scandal with Miss Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
That did not help him.
No. I mean, geez. I mean, admittedly, Macho Man was a very jealous human being, but at the same time, Hulk Hogan didn't make anything any better.
Nope.
You know, he didn't make it better at all because of the fact that, I mean, you look back at the storyline between those two, okay? You know, the match, I remember the match when Elizabeth got hurt, Hulk Hogan went and took her to the back and left Macho Man hanging. And I mean, that's kind of true to life. I mean, that's the kind of man he is. You know, he's the kind of dude that'll do that. And you know, to me, I get the appeal of Hulk Hogan. I get the appeal, but I've never been a fan. I've never ever been a fan, and I guess I can always see through. I can always see through his BS. You know, as a kid, I could always see through his BS. I was more part of the madness than I was a Hulkamaniac.
You were part of the madness. You were part of like the madness side of the major powers. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan. You see, Hulk Hogan, I am the cream. And the cream always rises to the top.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's probably the first of many different people we're gonna spoof on this show. So you know, it was a little far fetched. And then when we have to wait until Connor gets back to talk about the band one. But while we're waiting for that one, why don't we talk about the other music related? Apparently, before Elvis Presley died, he was a Hulk Hogan fan. But the thing is, he died 2 years before Hogan even got to Memphis.
I mean, the BS that this guy would spit out of his mouth. I mean, okay. The guy, Elvis was dead long before he decided to say, okay, you know, I mean, it's nuts. Because if you look back and do your research, I mean, it's blatant that Hulk Hogan is lying his ass off. I mean, it's totally obvious that he is. And I mean, it's lies on top of lies on top of lies on top of lies, to the point to where you don't know when the man's telling the truth at all. And to me, I've always felt like he's always lying. He lies to me anytime he opens his mouth. That's just my opinion. I've never been the type of person that will take anything that he says to heart, because he's a known liar, a known liar.
Well, he is a wrestler, you know, and what they say about those old school wrestlers like that, they're a bunch of carnies. But there's also a time where you need to switch that off, you know, and just be Terry. Don't be, you know, Hulk Hogan.
Right.
I think at this point in his life, there's something new, he's done a whole bunch of recent podcasts lately, and he just seems like he's out of it, even worse than he was, you know, with a few years ago. He feels I think he's losing his mind a little bit.
I think he lost it a long time ago, but that's just my opinion.
Fair. All right, Connor, you ready for some trivia?
Yeah, let's. I love trivia.
All right. So, What famous band did Hulk Hogan apparently try out for?
Oh, Bill, you put out for a band? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna guess the Jackson 5. I don't know.
That's a hell of a guess.
That's a funny guess, though.
I mean, could you imagine a little Hulk Hogan with the Jackson 5?
Oh my
Oh my
god!
god.
Well, Mr. Hogan, in clubs and in other bars they would go to, like he would jump up on stage with like smaller bar bands, and he could pretty much play a good guitar.
Yeah, he can play
And
guitar. He's
yeah,
not bad at guitar. That's the
yeah.
truth.
That is the truth. Mr. Jacobs, do you want to tell our friend and our wonderful listeners what band apparently Hogan tried out for that was complete bullshit?
All right. So according to Hulk Hogan himself, he tried out for Metallica.
No, not true.
And-
We did not try with no Metallica.
Yes, he
No.
did. I mean, no, he didn't. But
He didn't.
that's what he told people.
Ain't no way. Anything's possible, but I don't know about that.
That's what. Well, that's and the funny thing is like Lars. Excuse me, sorry guys. Lars even like debunked it. Was like, dude, we don't even know Hulk Hogan. We're
Right.
wrestling
They
fans,
never met him.
but we've never met Hogan and never had him try out to be a bass player.
That just after a while you'd get embarrassed by doing that. I feel like the Jackson Hogan.
The Jackson Hogan.
Jackson Hogan's. Oh,
That
man.
we got- oh man, it's just crazy to think like I get you're a good because I've heard some of his guitar licks. I'm like, I get you're a good guitar player, but you're not on Metallica level, okay, bro? Sorry,
No, he's not there.
sorry to burst your brother, both their brother, but you're not good enough for the Metallica.
And the truth is that before he started wrestling, like right before he started wrestling, he was actually in a band in Florida. They would go to different clubs in Florida and play, but he never reached like Metallica kind of
Yeah.
that level. He never got there, but he was like in a band that would go just traveling to different clubs and just playing. That was it. I forget the name of the band. There's something experience, something like that. But yeah, he was like in a low level, kind of like a garage band, I guess you can say.
Well,
I'm
since we're
guessing-
good.
I'm guessing that Willie Nelson told him that he was better than Metallica.
Probably.
He'll probably say that.
That would have- Well, since we're on the topic of music, let's talk about Hogan's album and
Oh,
a
God.
particular song on the album dedicated to Little Hulkamaniac. That the song was written about how he gave this kid a ticket to go to SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium, but
Was a
died.
Hulkster in heaven.
Yeah, Hulkster in heaven.
Yeah.
And
God.
apparently, all the proceeds for that song, for that boy that went to SummerSlam at Wembley to watch Hulk Hogan wrestle. All the proceeds of that song went to apparently the
Hulk
kid's
Hogan's
family.
pockets.
It went to Hulk Hogan's pockets. So there's the lie there. And the second greatest part about that though is that Hogan himself was not on the Wembley Stadium card in SummerSlam.
No, he was not.
He was not there.
So
That poor kid.
why did he even? Really makes sense. Why would you tell someone that you're going to be there and then lies on top of lies?
Yeah, and the thing is, the jury's still out if the kid actually existed. I don't even know if the kid actually existed. I'm pretty sure he didn't. Knowing Hulk Hogan, he probably didn't exist in the first place.
Jim Cornette confirmed that the kid actually was real and that he did go to Wembley and that he died right after Wembley Stadium. So the kid was real, but the whole the whole song to go with it was just to get publicity on Hogan's wonderful music selection.
Jeez, Hulk Hogan bought his ticket to hell.
So it was basically like Make-A-Wish type thing.
It was. I think it
Kind of.
was actually Make-A-Wish that was
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah.
So he just told him that he was going to be there, then he didn't show up.
So it's
Wow.
Never meet your hero, they say.
right.
Right?
Well, I got a lie that it wasn't Hulk Hogan's fault on this one. It was Vince McMahon's fault. So, of course. Well, and then again, there was no, think about it, there was no like internet back then. But
Right.
Hogan being the first person to slam Andre the Giant which that was a complete bunch of bullshit.
That was a lie. I know for a fact because I know that Big John Studd, he paraslammed him.
Yep.
Uh,
Jake the Snake Roberts did as well.
yeah.
He was just the first
I think-
person that wanted to show that did it.
Yeah,
They wanted to make a big deal out of it.
Well, think about it. You had to have that good big finish at WrestleMania. And then to make matters even worse, Hogan would say he would tear almost every ligament in his back. Then how the heck are you still walking, bro?
Exactly. There'll be no way he'll be walking if that was true. No way. I mean,
No.
the lies, man. It's so
lies.
hilarious, man. I mean, okay. Now let's say that it was true. How the hell could he pull off doing leg drops after that?
You wouldn't be
Right.
able to.
He finished
Exactly.
the match. At least
It's
I recall
ridiculous.
he did. Maybe to him, I don't know.
To make
I got to
matters,
do
yeah.
I mean, I know Andre the Giant, but didn't in the Andre the Giant documentary, he said that Andre had to lift his body up so Hulk Hogan would be able to slam him. Like he didn't actually pick him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because Andre he hopped. He did a little hop, and that's what kind of got him over.
Yeah. See, that was one thing that Andre did well. Even Jake the Snake even mentioned that they were wrestling. I believe I can't remember what territory it was, but they were wrestling, and Andre goes, "All right, body slam." He's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And as soon as before he could do that, freaking Andre just scooped up right into his arms and bam.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I love WWE because it's like, because think about it, every time you watch the then, now, forever,
You always see
that's
it.
the first thing you see.
Yeah.
It'll always be
Yeah.
that way.
All based on a lie.
All based on a lie. Why, Vince? Why? Why'd you lie to us?
Kind of like the same thing with Yokozuna. Like they said, like Sluger did it, but actually, Ahmed Johnson did it for Slam Yokozuna.
Yeah.
He was a very interesting cat for sure. Yeah, he still is an interesting cat because he's still alive.
Yeah.
Still alive. And then one thing that kind of really, I guess, ticked me off, right? There was two of the greatest wrestlers in the profession, in WWE during that time frame, right? You had Roddy, you had Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, and then you had Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And see, Hogan was friends with both these guys until Vince said, "Hey, we're going to put the strap on you." Hogan was so jealous. See, a lot of people talk positive about him, unless you were in the championship picture with Hogan. And then he went from being your best friend to, "Hey, man, how do you feel about this spot?" to, just to cold shouldering. And then once he would take the belt from you, he would be your friend.
Right.
Kind of like Bash at the Beach 2000. In
Yeah.
a way. But I bet there's a lot of moments like that he had that we probably don't even know about. A lot of stuff that happened that we don't even know.
Well, and he refused to drop the title to Hot Rod because Roddy Piper wanted to hold the belt for a little longer. He didn't want to drop it right back the next night.
No one blame him either. I know the episode's about Hogan, but honestly, in ring, character wise, Piper was just a little bit more better.
I agree with that. I think Piper he was always better on the mic. I think, and Piper, to me, he was a bigger character than Hulk Hogan because of the fact that he had more dimensions to him.
Yes.
Piper had more dimensions to him. He wasn't just a one-dimensional character. He had many layers to him, which is interesting. And Hogan, he was just this one-dimensional character. He was all about saying the prayers, taking your vitamins, and all that stuff. I mean, that was it. There was no any other layers. But with Piper, I mean, you had layers of anger, you had layers of jealousy, you had layers of desperation, trying to like if you go back and watch Piper's matches, his character was always the type that was desperate to win. He would go to any lengths to win. Whether it be getting a chair or causing any kind of way to get an upper hand, he would do so. And like I said, I mean, he had like so many other layers to that one character, which is why I've always thought that Piper was a better character.
No, and you're absolutely right. He had, of course, Piper's Pit was always entertaining.
Yeah.
But the lengths he would go to either win or to embarrass his opponent, like it wasn't just, oh, I'm a heel, I'm coming out here to defeat you. I'm here.
Right.
I'm here to get revenge and payback. Davis, thank you so much for commenting. Agrees
Davis.
with your statement. So thank you so much. We appreciate it, Davis. And yeah, Mr. Jacobs, like you really hit it on the nail with that one. And there's a really good
Thank you.
inside. What's up? You got out there for a second. What'd you say, Mr. Jacobs?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say with Bret Hart, looking at, there's a really great inside the ropes shoot interview that he did just recently talking about Hogan and basically saying, like I was saying, he was Bret's friend. He would consider Hogan to be one of his best friends. They toured together. He was, his dad, Hogan's dad was a huge Bret Hart fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of the blue, he would go off, do his movies. So they put the strap on Bret.
Yeah.
And Bret would see him in the hallway. He'd go up and try to talk to him, stick out his hand and say, hey, welcome back. And Hogan just gave him the cold shoulder and walked off.
That's not surprising at all.
Okay. And then Vince would say, hey, you're dropping the strap to Hogan. He's like, and Bret was okay with playing second fiddle to Hogan because he knew what Hogan meant to the business.
Mm-hmm.
So he would drop the belt, and then Hogan was his friend again. Said, brother, so thank you so much. I know that, I'm promoting the movie. This is going to be a really big help, right? And then Hogan would not return the favor. Vince tried.
Not.
He wanted Hogan to tap out to the sharpshooter. Vince would tell Bret, hey, this is the plan. Okay? They would fly out for the pay-per-view. Then he would say, hey, Vince wants to see you in my office. Go see Vince. It's like, yep, you're losing to a leg drop tonight. And
now, see, it's not surprising because of the fact that Hogan always had to get his way. He always had to get his way, no matter what. You could, and that goes for WWF, WCW. He always had to get his way. He always had to find his way back to that title in some kind of way, and that pissed me off every single time that he did that.
Like, people always get mad on modern wrestling and how some of the wrestlers in both major companies get championship belts. But think about it, how many times did people lose to Hogan out of nowhere to get that belt?
Exactly.
I was watching the Yokozuna documentary on Peacock, and that was a little stupid. Like, that was this big moment. Okay, WrestleMania. He beats Bret Hart, and then Hulk Hogan has to come in and ruin the moment. Of course, he won it back, but still, that was a big moment because Yokozuna's family was there, the whole Samoan family. And he wins it for a few minutes, and then
it's all about Hogan.
I think at that time he was fixing to leave, and they wanted him to have the belt one last time. But yeah,
they should just let him go without the belt.
Yeah.
Well, you're already getting paid. You already have in your contract creative control. Like, you're just going to go off to WCW anyways. At that point, they
get his own control there too. So I mean, like, I don't see the big deal in him not having the belt and going to WCW. I didn't see the big deal because he was going to get whatever the hell he wanted in WCW anyway. So I don't know. It's just his greed.
It wasn't like he was going to do what Medusa did, win the championship and then throw it in the trash.
Right.
It's like if you're so afraid of him, like how he's leaving and portraying the next company, like, then just don't give him the belt at all. Just don't give him the belt. Let him go. You guys leave on good terms, and if he comes back, he comes back.
Right.
I think at the time
I agree.
he was doing a few movies, and Because that time he was done with wrestling because they were kind of moving on because they had like Shawn Michaels and Ozuna, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think at that time that's when he started doing Thunder in Paradise. Around that
Yeah,
time.
shortly after because they filmed it in Florida, so CW
Yeah.
and all that all became.
Let's see. He did. He did that. He was in Rocky.
Yeah.
He
No
was
Holds
the nanny.
Barred.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nanny.
Mr. Nanny, yeah. You know what's funny is I have not seen any of Hulk Hogan's movies.
You're not missing out.
I'm
You're
not
not
missing
missing
out.
out.
Even on
No,
No
you're not
Holds
missing
Barred.
out. I mean, No Holds Barred's a cool movie, but it would be cool with anybody in it. I mean,
That's true.
it's still a cool movie.
I went to this is kind of a side. I went to Chris's house and we watched this VHS of this Hulk Hogan movie. I can't remember what the movie was called. If you go online, you can't find it. But it was a very confusing movie. It's basically like his wrestling matches. They didn't.
Nice.
It was. I can't remember what that movie was called, but probably the reason you can't find it is because it wasn't good.
So
Right.
Good. Well, here's a good segue in since we're talking about before he leaves, and here's kind of a teaser for next week's Vince McMahon episode. So this is kind of where Vince and Hogan were kind of screwing over some of their top talent, okay? And this is kind of where you kind of start seeing talent on their own getting over. That wasn't just Vince McMahon's idea, right?
Yeah.
You had Jake the Snake Roberts, okay? He would go out, he was going to have a championship run with the Hulkster, okay? He has had the worst of luck with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. He would go out and he would DDT Hulk Hogan on the concrete, right? We'd DDT him, and he would walk backstage and say, okay, we're just waiting for Hulk Hogan to get up, rip his shirt, and move on. Well, while Hogan was ripping his shirt, getting up after the DDT, people were chanting DDT, DDT, and chanting Jake the Snake Roberts. So as soon as that happened, Vince was like, nope, sorry, we're stopping your push because you went up against our golden goose.
Wow. I mean, get this logic. Get this logic. Oh, the fans like you too much. We're going to stop your push.
Mhm.
What the hell is that? You're getting over with the fans. We're going to stop your push right now because you're not going to be bigger than our top star.
Yes. So it just baffles me because if you look at Jake, and the thing is, I know Jake didn't need a championship, but dude, Jake deserved a championship.
I agree.
He deserved that 10 pounds of gold.
Does anyone know that story? The Ultimate Warrior. He was supposed to. It was the two biggest guys in the company didn't want him to win the title. He probably would have been world champion if it wasn't for them two. What happened with the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah. He did the same thing.
Yeah, basically.
Just a little more crazier.
Right.
Ultimate Warrior the very next night. I remember that. Someone said, "Get the hell out of my building." I could just imagine him saying that in his voice back down. Take your shit and get the hell out of here.
It's sad to say that because Jake was like almost same thing with Hot Rod. Jake had many layers to his character, and fans were seeing that. Even though he was a heel, fans were still behind him. He was, he would get real heat, but in other spots of the country, fans would be right behind him because he was real. He wasn't, like you were saying, he wasn't preaching take your vitamins and drink your milk. He was saying that children, if you don't go to sleep and do what your kids tell you, I will slither into your bedroom and give you a DDT.
Yeah, man. I mean, Jake the Snake, man, that's a character right there to me. Like when you talk about a character that embodied the wrestling business, that epitomized it, that's Jake the Snake.
Yes.
I mean, hands down.
Well, Ariana asked, this is just a fun question for us before we move on to our next portion of Hogan's Lies here, to give Mr. Jacobs something more fun to talk about. Was the Snake more over than Jake?
That's a good question. I know Damien was pretty over though, man.
Damien was over.
I mean, to me, that was like the coolest part that Jake the Snake was Damien, But I mean, to say that Damien was more over than Jake, I mean, I think they were both pretty over, equally.
Yeah. Because think about
Was
it. Okay.
was the snake's name Damien?
Yeah.
Yeah, Damien.
Was that the snake that was in AEW?
It was like
Probably.
third.
It lived all those years.
I mean, reptiles they can live a long time, but I'm pretty sure that was a different Damien.
Yeah. I just love the video of like him biting Macho Man.
Oh man, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
watching that as a kid, man. That was like one of the things that got me right there. Like that's one of the images that still sticks in my head from when I was a kid was Damien biting Randy Savage, and the blood that came out when he was biting them, and you could see him just gnawing away at his arm. It was just like, oh my god! And that's probably one of the first visceral moments of wrestling that I remember watching as a kid. That was like so visceral and so impactful that it's burned into my brain.
I just love the whole Macho Man impersonation from Jake, where he's like, "Is that snake fixed?
Yeah,
I don't want to get poisoned." Just love it. Jake's like, "Of course you dumbass. It's like, of course it's been fixed."
yeah, they defanged him. I took the poison glands out.
Yeah. Oh man, like there was a lot of egos. I love like how people are always talking about how egos today in wrestling are like so out of control, but I'm like, you literally had like worse egos
in the
back
80s.
in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s where people had too much control.
Right. Before the world got PC.
Right. We'll have a whole rant from Mr. Jacobs at the end of the video for Hogan being not so PC.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, Hogan is a very interesting cat. Like it's funny to hear some of his things that he thinks, right? And apparently, did you know the Hulkster can change time? Did you know that he wrestled for 400 days a year?
Yeah, I heard that.
There's 400 days in a year.
Exactly.
So Hogan wrote in his book, this is the one from WWE too. This is the WWE biography, right? Or autobiography. Hogan would say, because he would fly back and forth from Japan, would main event in the Tokyo Dome, and then fly back and main event, on WWF, right?
Yeah.
That he would wrestle 400 days a year because of the time difference.
I mean, I guess.
The hardest working man in the business, working 400 days a year.
But he would lose time though, because all the times he would fly to Japan then too. So it kind of evens itself out. But apparently he believed in that so much, he literally could basically convert. He has his own time schedule and wrestled 400 days a year.
Oh man,
he is something else, man.
But then he would go back on that comment, right? In a recent interview he did, I think it was with one of the Paul brothers, but he would say, "Well, I meant that because I was wrestling like 3 or 4 times a day on some parts. I would fly in the Tokyo Dome, brother, and then I would go, I'd go, all the way down, to the Superdome, and I would wrestle I'd go do a WWF show." And I'm like, it doesn't count if it's all. I get you wrestled 3 times a day. That's crazy that you had to do that, but
yeah,
you were not wrestling 400 days a year, bro.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
And it's literally impossible.
Now if you're counting total matches, I don't know. You have to be combining all your matches. Whoever gave that's the Hulk Hogan math. How he came up with that, I don't know. How he came up with 400 days a year when there's not even 400 days in a year. You're off by
oh god,
50 or 365 days in a year.
I mean the math and the logic on that guy is just incredible.
I was just counting like all the matches he did, and then combining all the hours of all the matches, then combine them into one time, then they're all over 24 hours, and then he gets somehow 400 days. I don't know.
Well, if you think about it, it's like Steiner math, but
yeah,
but worse.
That's just stupid math. That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's stupid math. I agree, Connor.
Makes sense. I'd love to know more about this. Like interview someone like Jim Cornette or someone that was close and like get their response to stuff like this because Jim Cornette's personal like show expressions and stuff like that would be hilarious.
No, and there's shoot interviews about that.
Yeah.
Like Cornette even addressed that, and he like when they were reading the list because it was the first time he had heard the list of lies, right? They're asking, how much is this true, how much is this not, right? And Hogan as soon as he heard the Hogan 400 days story, he completely lost it. So I'll send you the link because, like I said, I have my opinions on Jim Cornette, but this was a good insight on the lies of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So
that's the one thing I can't wrap my head around this episode. How in the hell do you get 400 days out of 365 days a year? I don't make
it's
sense.
called steroids and taking chair shots, bro.
Right.
He didn't take his vitamins.
Take his vitamins.
He's shooting up his vitamins.
Since we're talking a little bit on the steroids aspect, apparently Hogan would say he would do steroids 3 times in his life.
Oh, bull.
He did his entire life.
It was because I think it was like right before he went to WCW, you started seeing like more of a leaner Hogan. And as soon as, of course, he went to WCW, that's when you saw a more natural physique.
Yeah.
A little more natural.
I mean, and that was probably one of the biggest lies he's ever told was that he wasn't a steroid abuser. I mean, come on now. His freaking veins had muscles. You could tell the dude was taking steroids, dude. I mean,
he had muscles on his veins and veins on his muscles.
Exactly. I mean, it's right.
Yeah. And it's just crazy to think that. And it's also wild to me, right, that this is another kind of discrepancy in his WCW career. But apparently there's times where he said it was his idea and Eric Bischoff's to turn heel, right? Okay. And then others said that he didn't want to turn heel and that Eric Bischoff went to Ted Turner with the idea and Ted Turner loved it so much. So I'm not sure who was lying at that point. But,
right.
But that was like one of the best things to happen to Hogan. Like it was one of the best things that he did, for a while until, Bash the Beach pretty much.
Yeah.
Kind of question everything Hogan said at this point.
Yeah, you have to question everything.
And looking back, that's why I'm curious to read his book. I might have to go buy his book now, because apparently Eric Bischoff, like in his new book that he just put out, I think last year or sometime early this year. But he even noted some of the things that Hulk Hogan did. That's like, hey, I had nothing to do with this. But then again, where's the lie?
Exactly. Because at this point, you don't know who's telling the truth or who's lying. I mean, I personally, I feel like the whole Hollywood Hogan angle. I feel like they both came up with that. Like it was kind of a contribution on both hands to me.
It's just crazy to think that. And then this is when you would start noticing more of Hogan's power and how much control he had backstage. The infamous finger poke of doom.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
You talk about a power play.
And Kevin Nash to this day still defends that. Like he still defends that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. I'd be ashamed to defend that.
But looking at it, right? So, rumor has it he sabotaged Chris Jericho's career. He tried to. Tried sabotaging, Pillman, Rey Mysterio. There's a few of the wrestlers that you showed in the intro.
Booker T, yeah.
Booker T, especially Booker T. Why don't you go into detail about Booker T? Why was he so against Booker T?
I mean, personally, I think I think that Hulk Hogan was kind of threatened by Booker T as far as a performer and and in ring talent. I feel like Booker T, like he had the fear like Booker T was gonna outshine him, which he did. And I mean, to me, that's what I always thought. Like he was always threatened by Booker T's skills.
Looking at it, Booker T was that after especially after Harlem Heat, once he started becoming more of a singles competitor, it almost felt like he was that brand new racehorse that was stronger, better, faster,
Yeah,
and was starting to get more over than Hogan and the NWO.
true.
I don't really agree with Vince Russo a lot, but I really think that he was trying to change WCW around a little bit during the Bash at the Beach 2000. Like he wanted, you guys have probably seen the Dark Side of the Ring episode about that. We
Hmm.
talked about it a little bit on here. That
Yeah,
Hogan was not supposed to win. Jeff Jarrett was supposed to win. They made Hogan look. They made him look more over than the person going to win. But it's kind of what we talked about earlier that they had the plan ready. Then the very next day, he refuses to do the match. He's not going to win.
yeah.
Uh,
He pulls that creative control card.
and then like he's wanting to push guys like I think that same night Booker T won the world title. He wanted guys like Booker T, someone different, to give a shot. But to
Yeah,
Hogan, it was Hogan's way or no way.
Well, I think
right.
that's kind of still an issue with the modern WWE system right now. Because think about it, you still have that one guy that's been, even with John Cena and Stone Cold era, it all started really with, well, probably started with Bob Backlund.
Yeah,
But Hogan was that first like big babyface name that it feels like everybody like all of your big champions following Hogan were that central golden goose that they were always had the title on them or in the title picture
right.
and would like it not hot potato, but it would basically be every big thing happened around those few guys. And it's something against WWF because it's WWE it still works because people are still invested in Roman Reigns. A lot of people loved or hated John Cena, with Stone Cold. Everybody still talks about Stone Cold to this day. So,
Yeah,
you know, Hogan really had to be the center face no matter what company he was in. He had to be the main guy. And do you think some of it was Vince's fault for giving him so much power and Eric Bischoff for giving him so much leeway and power? Do they really think he was? I know that he was one of the biggest draws of all of wrestling, but do you think that this could have been prevented?
I think when he signed in 1995. I think he had already had that. So they brought Vince Russo in 1999, 2000 when they brought him in.
yeah,
So he's stuck with it. So he didn't have a choice. He came from
right.
WWE, crept him there. So he's stuck with him. I always wondered if Hogan didn't have the power he had, if Vince Russo would have been able to turn it around.
Mhm.
Of course, some of the things he did was kind of stupid. Having a wrestling match in a swimming pool, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. But I feel like Vince Russo had some of an idea of what. I don't know. It's a blame game on the WCW side, but more people have more of a blame than others.
I think that, I mean, personally, I feel like they created a monster when it came to Hulk Hogan. They created a monster, you know,
Damn.
because he can only have as much power as they give him, and they pushed him to the moon, and they created a monster. You know, that to me, and to the point to where Hulk Hogan actually started to believe his own BS, and every chance he had, he'll pull that creative control card every chance he got. And like I said, I feel like Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff, they created this monster.
Yeah,
They gave
there
some
was.
other ones great power too. President Nash and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul.
really, like the main core of NWO, I think they had too much power.
Oh,
They
way
had
too
more
much.
power than the people who are like they had more power than the people who are supposed to have power.
Hmm.
Because wasn't Kevin Nash like head booker of WCW at one time?
Yeah.
that-
Whenever
Well,
Vince, I think when Russo left, he was on the booking. I
well,
believe so.
kind of looking at it now, I wish I would have addressed it more back in our WCW Rise and Fall episode. But looking back at it now, like I feel like Hogan had a huge part of the failure at WCW.
it
Yeah.
was it was a bunch of people, not but some people have the more to blame than others. Uh, that's just how it happens. Some people don't need to be in charge. Some people just need to stay in a wrestler, and that's it.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Before we get to our last few subjects here, just want to make a shout out to Ethan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ariana, what a mess talking about all the stuff that happened. Yeah, very true
Yeah.
with Hogan. It's crazy what he got away with. And then a new comment from Boy Toy, seen us on the Canada billboard in Montreal. Well,
I don't know about
I didn't
that.
know. I didn't know about that, but thank you so much. We have a great group
Sweet.
of Canada guys that have a show dropping this Saturday. So,
Yeah.
so make sure you give our friends up north some love. We love our Canada friends. They were also in our intro tonight for it. Great group of guys. We are just like I said. So give them some love because they have really cool topics, just like we do here on Talking Elite, but with more maple syrup.
Right.
So shout out to Dusty and everybody up at All Elite Zone Canada. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you guys and everything that you do. All right, do you guys want to talk about Hogan's Little Hulkster?
Which one?
So
Which one are you talking about?
in 2012, the unthinkable would happen. WWE would blacklist Hulk Hogan. There's two reasons why. And the first one having to do with his little Hulkster.
Oh yeah, the sex tape.
The infamous sex tape.
Oh boy.
Now, who was this with?
Let's see. I can't remember who did he have.
It was Bubba the Love Sponge's wife
Oh
at the time.
gosh.
And they were all cool with each other. They all was like, okay, cool. And I mean, all right, we're gonna get into it now.
Yes, go. Let's go, Mr. Dick. Let's go. Let's go.
Now, Bubba the Love Sponge, his mansion full of cameras everywhere. Hulk Hogan knew this. And there was a camera in the bedroom. And I mean, I remember after the whole thing happened and he wondered how did it all get out. I mean, there's only one person that has access to the security system in that house, and that's Bubba the Love Sponge. So to me, I felt like Bubba was the one who put that all out. Now, him sleeping with Bubba's wife and all that stuff. I mean, that was it. If that's what they're cool with, that's them. But what happened during the sex tape, whenever Brooke called Hogan, and Hogan proceeded to spit out racial slurs, and I mean that's just like throwing gas on the fire. And the whole apology tour that happened afterwards. Like to me personally, I felt like he was just sorry because he got caught up in it all. He was, he wouldn't apologize either the way. He apologized because he got caught up.
Now, who did he sleep with? What is this person's name?
Bubba the Love Sponge. He was a radio personality or radio DJ.
With him?
Yeah, he was in TNA for a while. Bubba the Love Sponge, the little chubby dude that would hang around Hulk Hogan from time to time.
He slept with
the Bubba
him?
Army. He slept with his wife.
Oh, was it? Damn, I was to say.
And Bubba gave him permission to. Yeah, there's some
I
freak.
get that, man. Like,
Then
why?
Brooke Hogan found out. That's how that.
Brooke Hogan called while Hogan was in the middle of the session with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife. So that's how that all came out, and it was all in the sex tape.
Why would you pick up the phone?
I mean,
I mean,
I couldn't answer that for you. I'd let it ring if I was in the middle of handling business, but that's just me.
Yeah, I feel like that would ruin the moment, and then yeah, you kind of you really should have ruined your career. But as we look, people in power can pretty much get away with anything,
Yeah.
and people will believe every word they say. Apparently, you look
I mean,
at
it was just so silly. I mean, he's like, the whole thing is stupid. He's like, all right. He's like, okay, let me go ahead and derail my career right quick. I'm gonna go ahead and,
it won't derail it. I'll be back. Hookster always comes back, brother. And he came back at WrestleMania, and everything was all fine and dandy. You know,
No,
it's
that was a
funny.
sea of booze when he came back. I remember that. They were all booing the
That was
hell out
not
of
a
him.
sea of booze. That was all,
Dude, go look back. Go
computer-generated
look back.
cheers.
Dude,
What
man,
you
you can hear
talking
nothing
about?
but booze when he came out. They're like, boo.
I thought it was boo yay.
Yeah, and then they piped in the A's.
Him and Titus O'Neil.
Oh god.
Yeah. And nobody liked Titus O'Neil in the first place, but then Hulk Hogan stepped out with him, and the whole place erupted in booze. It was nuts. I mean, it was.
Well, luckily, Titus went for a slide in Saudi Arabia to get his love back for him.
Yeah.
I love to praise Titus O'Neil, but I'll never. He's not as nice as you think he is on camera. Have I told you? I told Miss James a story about that, haven't I?
Go ahead and tell it.
I haven't heard the Titus story. It's a mini sub right now.
I went to WWE WrestleMania Access in Orlando. Last time they were in Orlando for WrestleMania when Brock and Goldberg. They had a access stand where you can meet people, and me and my uncle went, and my uncle's handicapped, so he goes into the accessibility. You know what I'm talking about, the handicap line. Well, they had the general people, and they had the people with disabilities line. Then every so often they had them come down to where people who were in wheelchairs couldn't necessarily get up on stage to meet whoever because they can't walk. And then when it was time for Titus O'Neil to come down, he said, "Do I really have to? I mean, I really don't want to go down." Everyone heard him, and some people walked away, but we couldn't leave because we were first in line. I was just ready to get out of line, but we couldn't and then just throws a half-ass smile, and then probably one of the worst autographs you could ever wouldn't even sell that. It was very. I mean, you see him on like all this like the promotional community stuff with WWE, but I don't know. It's, not to say it wasn't having a bad day, but I've heard some other people say some similar things. But
it's kind of a dick move, though.
He's not. Everyone heard him. Like 100 people heard him say that.
Jeez.
Well, and it's weird because isn't he like in charge of the Be a Star campaign or to stop?
Yeah, he's an ambassador also.
Yeah. He doesn't belong in him. He's not an ambassador. I'm not going to say it.
You're good.
Wow, Titus is a dick. Who knew that?
He puts the ass in ambassador.
And then R-Truth actually heard him say it, and R-Truth kind of shook his head, and I couldn't believe he said it.
Jeez.
You're good. Well, there's one more infamous moment in Hulk Hogan's life. That's worse than the sex tape. Not as bad as racial slurs. Racial slurs is kind of up there. That's probably the worst thing he's done.
Yeah.
But to go against the person that made you the biggest name in wrestling and testify against Vince Kennedy McMahon during the steroid trial, he would be on the defense and try to get his former boss sent to jail. So.
That was so messed up because, I mean, Hulk Hogan was taking the same steroids that Vince was taking. And I mean, let's be honest, Vince, he never said no to the steroids. He never said yes to the steroids, but at the same time, he never said no either.
True.
He was never like, don't go doing that. He never stopped you,
Yeah.
So it was very hypocritical to me of Hogan to do any of that. So hypocritical.
It's just crazy, So just to think about that, and where people's biggest hero, a lot of us knew that he was on steroids, but a lot of people didn't want to believe it and were very hysterical about it. So we'll talk more next week on the Vincent Kennedy McMahon season finale of Dark Side of the Elite Zone. We'll talk more in depth on the steroid trial and everything that Vincent Kennedy McMahon has done to hurt the wrestling business. I mean, sports entertainment.
Right.
So,
get it right.
It's good shit, pal. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for Talking Elite tonight on Dark Side of Hulk Hogan. I want to say a special thanks to Mr. Jacobs and Connor for coming on tonight. This was a lot of fun, guys. I had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun with this podcast.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Like, this one was probably one of my favorites. So if you guys like this episode, make sure you guys like, comment, share down below if you guys haven't already. Hit the bell to get notified of all of our shows that we do. So it's, like I said, this has been a very fun one. If you haven't seen our other episodes, go back and watch all the way from our Chris Candido and Sunny episode to the $1 Million Family and the now Hulk Hogan, the Dark Side in last week's episode. Another one of my favorites. We talk a lot about the Attitude Era. So I feel like this has been one of the best series we've done. So thank you guys so much for making a very important topic of all of us for everything. Hopefully Adam will be back soon. We're still loving on him, still reaching out to him and making sure he knows that y'all miss him, we miss him. So thank you, Ariana.
He always have a place here.
He always has a place. Thank you so much for caring about him. But at this time, we are giving him his privacy, and if he does come back, of course, we'll announce it and we'll welcome back with arms wide open.
Or maybe we'll stay for a surprise. We're not gonna let anyone know. We're not gonna give all our secrets out.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you guys so much for coming out. Connor, Mr. Jacobs, is there any announcements you guys want to make before we sign off tonight?
Oh, go ahead, Connor.
Good thing I'm not going to get interrupted this time. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, we are going to be having former WWE star, even when he's not on, next Wednesday, October 4th, we're going to be having former WWE star, former TNA star, the Pope, Elijah Burke. As right now, everything's set in stone. I'm just because of our past incidents, it's always good to be safe than sorry.
We're in Canada now.
Yeah. I'm not sure what episode's coming out this Saturday, but check out our All Elite Zone Canada crew, AEZ, this coming Saturday. Is it 12 Central is when the episode drops?
2 p.m. Central and 3
2 p.m. Central. Yeah.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait for the episode. We'd like to thank everybody so much for making Talking Elite a very special part of our weeks. Thank you again to Connor and Mr. Jacobs. It was a blast tonight talking and bearing the Hulkster. So if there's nothing else to be said, as our dear friend Adam once said, have a good night.